Hello everyone, this is James Boys with a new video to share some of my own thoughts on the advancement of artificial intelligence, also known as AI, into the area of healthcare and specifically how it might be applied in the field of complex testing or genomics. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you get alerted when I upload the next videos. You may have heard in the news that in May 2018, Theresa May, the UK Prime Minister, made an announcement about how the NHS and technology companies should use AI as a new weapon in research. And then just last week, on the 11th of July 2018, NHS England announced plans to publish a code of conduct over the use of AI in healthcare in the UK. Believe it or not, there are no current guidelines in place, and some concerns and negative press stories have already emerged in recent times over data protection issues, especially around the idea of AI being a sort of black box. So this is obviously a hot topic right now, as it should be. Hopefully if you're watching this video, you'll have already watched my introduction video on this channel, which highlights the areas of pathology, which includes genomics, and I want to start by delving a bit deeper into this area and the challenges that we face where I believe that managed use of AI could help. So every human being has 3 billion letters in their genome, and they inherit this directly from their parents with an approximate 50-50 split. You can identify this simple fact when you consider how children either look or have character traits of each parent and their bloodlines. This genome is seen in a sequence of letters, A, C, G and T. Based on current known information, out of every 100 people globally, 65 will inherit a defective gene, which will lead to a type of disease that is inherited. We're going to cover this in more detail later, but these defects don't always occur or show up at birth, but unfortunately for 8 million people they do. The other challenge today is that whilst there are a great many technology companies out there that are doing great work in trying to keep up with the evolution within the genomics area, not every laboratory out there either both has access to the technology or, if they have technology, is using a system which is actually keeping up. The greatest challenge of all, of course, though, is that even once you get your genomic data, how do we actually translate that into actionable information that either means that you or the clinicians, doctors, can enact a change that can positively impact your life? Now I just want to delve into this over the next 2 slides, so bear with me. We talked about inheriting a disease from a parent and their bloodline, but there are also other components that can trigger a disease onset. So each gene, from a genetic perspective, is broken down into promoters that switch the gene on or off, and then introns and exons that basically stretch out. Introns give the gene logic, but exons are the DNA base itself, and they're the pieces of the gene that we look to extract to convert to something called ribonucleic acid, also known as RNA. RNA is a long string, single-stranded chain of cells that processes protein. We can better explain this with this slide. So RNA processing cuts those introns out to just leave the exons, the messenger RNA with the core details of the gene. Protein can then be extracted from the RNA, and this gives us the information of what triggers the promoters to be active or not. Now, if I'm starting to lose you, don't worry. The whole point is that human biology is very complex. It is actually too complex for any one researcher or group to understand alone, and so that simple fact has implications for how we progress with information that we're learning. In the last few years, our ability to measure our own biology has been created. That may be a fitness tracker or a smartwatch, or that may just be using new technologies that allow us to measure our own metabolites or other different things in our bodies. But here's the thing. Today, our ability to measure our biology and then change it using DNA or gene editing has far surpassed our ability to actually understand our biology. And you can see here that we still believe that 80% of our genome is of unknown consequence. So can we have an impact? Targeted RNA or gene panels have been available for 30 years and more, and most molecular or genomic departments today are doing this. Genome sequencing is much more recent and thankfully can be done for less than $1,000. The original cost was $2.7 billion and took 15 years. Today we also have 3D DNA, which is very new, and the graphic on this slide, that little picture on the bottom right, illustrates it. But you can also see, if you look on that chart with the number of data sets, how small it is in comparison to the others. But like DNA, if you look at that average gigabyte per data set at 10 gigabytes, it's huge, and that reflects the quantity of the data that we're looking at. Remember earlier we were talking about our 3 billion letters. So to my mind, this illustrates perfectly how we should be looking at using artificial intelligence, AI, combined with tried and tested algorithms that can pull out the key data from these giant data sets in order to enable a faster focus on the important and known elements. There are concerns though. I mentioned earlier that we can't be in a position where data protection laws or information governance is compromised, nor have it seen as a black hole of information. Equally, we're talking about patients, and they look to doctors and clinicians for advice. So we want to make sure that there is buy-in from those people. Neither should we need to have deep technical expertise to understand what these algorithms and AI findings are showing, so we need to base the findings on lots of data to ensure positive outcomes. We need to find a way to start with base information or ground truth, because as I put here, black and white doesn't really exist in medicine. We're all individuals after all. When those algorithms are created, they also need to have that clinical and medical expertise and not just technical. There is a precedent here already in things like sepsis, kidney failure, when back in 2016 it was recognised that we had a silent killer in our midst, and various clinical and laboratory personnel from the south of England, the north of England, the northeast and northwest came together to argue initially, but to come to an agreement over an algorithm to get an earlier detection rate with simple blood tests, and in doing so save lives. Using learning and feedback, that algorithm that was created has actually now been mandated to be programmed into all the laboratory software in the UK, and other parts of the world including Australia as well have followed suit, and this is all being actively used today. So here's the summary. Disease is caused not just by inherited conditions. 35% of us don't inherit anything negative at birth, which leads to a disease. But we do when then we get impacted by the environment we are exposed to, the food we consume, the drugs we take, legal and illegal. Recent evidence also shows that if we inherit childhood viruses when we're at nursery or early parts of school, those can actually lay foundations for future disease. There was a recent announcement regarding chickenpox and the herpes virus, and the potential that it may increase the incidence of us inheriting Alzheimer's later in life. Having said that though, bear in mind that our genome is still the primary determinant of many of our characteristics. I believe that the main challenge healthcare faces is not just finding models that can assess the risk, but actually helping us, the patients, to prevent a situation where that defective gene would actually be activated, so that promoter we talked about earlier. Thanks for watching. Rest assured that as things evolve and develop, this won't be the last video I create on the topic, so as I mentioned earlier, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button so that you get alerted when I upload the next videos. Thank you.